This video is sponsored by War Thunder. 2 years ago, I explained how speedrunners skipped the worst part of Space Quest 4. Today, we're back for more because they've done it again and the game is unrecognizable. Along for the journey is the Space Quest historian, an expert on how the series is supposed to look. We'll get his reaction, and I'll explain to him, and you, exactly how speedrunners destroyed this game. Welcome, we have the Space Quest historian here. What qualifies you to be a Space Quest historian? What does that mean?
Being more annoying. I was more annoying than any other 16-year-old in 1996. I figured out how to email Sierra people, Scott Murphy in particular, and just sort of roll with it from there. Also, I wrote a huge-ass text document about Space Quest when I was 16 years old. I don't know. Actually, nothing, really.
So we are looking at Space Quest 4. Could you give us just a sentence or two rundown of the plot as well? What are we doing here? Not like it matters, but...
Oh, well, where's my Space Quest companion when I need it? Roger's on his way home to his home planet of Xenon, which he has been for like 2 or 3 games at this point. And this was the game where the 2 guys from Andromeda, the designers of the series, got a little bit burned out by, being constantly asked to do another sequel. So they decided to do the biggest... Can I swear?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
You're going to bleep it, right?
Yeah.
They decided to do the biggest you sequel of all time, which is a game that is outright trying to kill you at every turn, has some of the most gruesome, grotesque puzzle design of the whole series, and it involves time travel, so you get to f*** up the timeline as well.
What we're here today to do is to get your reaction to a recent speedrun world record of Space Quest 4. You have not seen this before, have you?
No, I have not. I don't think I've seen any speedruns, actually, of Space Quest games. I've toyed with the idea of doing one myself, but then I'm like, I've seen your videos. I know how obsessive speedrun people can get, so maybe that's not for me. But I'm excited to see. This is going to be interesting.
So we're going to do a little 3, 2, 1, go.
There we go. Restarting, so we skip the pan down introduction. Head straight for the sewer grate. Cool. Yeah, that was quick. Yeah. Screw the beaker.
Yeah, talk about that. What did we skip there?
Yeah, well, we skipped first of all, we skipped the plot dump, which is just a cutscene of a dude talking for like 3 or 4 minutes. But he also skipped the beaker, which is where you're supposed to pick up the slime that's actually in the sewers that we're in. You're supposed to use that to melt a log right at the end of the game. So I'm actually excited to see how he's going to get past that without the slime, because it's a necessary inventory item, at least when you play it regularly. He's taking a different route through the sewers than I usually do.
Yes, and I think that's because if you go the way he's going, it's technically shorter. Normally you go over the top so you can get the slime. It's a little bit easier to do that.
And I'm assuming he's running this in DOSBox because I see the cycles are set quite high. And I'm also assuming he's playing I know he's playing the floppy versions because I can tell, versions, plural, apparently, because I can tell from the walk icon. The CD-ROM icons were color, and this one is black and white.
Mm-hmm.
That has to suck, just having to sit there and wait for the music cue to finish. Maybe if you run this without music, it's faster.
Maybe, though typically people tend not to disable the audio drivers. I know it's like an arbitrary decision, but that seems like a step too far for most people. You're supposed to do it this way. But
you would save a bunch of time, especially here, because in the floppy version, you have to wait for this music cue to finish as well before Roger steps out. In the CD-ROM version, he just steps out immediately. But yeah, I think if he disabled the audio, this might happen faster, or put it on PC speaker audio if he was like a masochist or something.
As we wait for the music to end, here's something else that speedrunner SantaClaus mentioned to me. Many events in the run are tied to a frame rule of approximately 1 second. If you're not familiar with speedrun lingo, this means that certain events will only happen once a second. So sometimes you need to wait longer for those events if you didn't trigger them fast enough. There are 3 of these in the early part of the run: regaining control after going underground, emerging from the sewers, and when the legs retract on the spaceship. The first frame rule is tied to DOSBox's system clock, so from the runner's point of view, this frame rule is effectively RNG. The second and third frame rules require very precise execution to catch the fastest frame rule possible, so a lot of runs die there. Runs also die to slime RNG. There's a chance when you exit the first underground room that the slime will appear immediately, and if it does, the game locks up. That spaceship is still just sitting there. May as well tell you about today's sponsor. War Thunder is a free-to-play vehicle combat game for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. War Thunder looks great, but I'm used to games that look like this. So let's fix that. Much better. That's the stuff. One of the things I love about War Thunder is that it runs great, even on a potato. I also like that it has destructible objects. That means that instead of helping my teammates hold the point, I can have fun demolishing this shopping center. At least until the enemy takes me out from one of the game's thousands of authentic vehicles. Okay, let's make this look better again. If you're new to the game or haven't played in 6 months, sign up using my link in the description or the pinned comment. You'll get a bonus pack of 100,000 silver linings. You'll get a bonus pack of 100,000 silver lions and 7 days of premium account, as well as other bonus items.
Yeah, let's go. Oh, we're going straight. Oh, I see. Oh, so we got a little bit of boundary jumping there.
Yes, yeah. So here's what's happening. Let me rewind it a little bit here. In February of 2024, speedrunner Swimfan found that you could go out of bounds in the hangar. Use the keyboard to move Roger up to this railing, press left, and then diagonal up left. From there, keep going right until you phase into this room. The out of bounds only works when you use keyboard movement, not the mouse. And that's why runners use the floppy version of the game. The CD version removed keyboard movement, and pressing the arrow keys just moves the cursor around the screen. This skip is also why runners use DOSBox, because ScumVM uses a different pathfinding algorithm and the out of bounds don't work there. Swimfan told me, many SCI rooms have exits at the 4 edges of the screen. What's intriguing is that these exits are often made redundant by other floor triggers, or scripts that take you to a new room, so there are technically multiple ways to enter some rooms. Finding these out-of-bounds areas requires a lot of trial and error. I spend a whole lot of time listening to audiobooks while bumping up against walls and testing pixel-perfect movements across screen transitions. Some get their kicks from cocaine. I get high, seeing Raj walk out into open space like Wile E. Coyote. The only problem with Swimfan's discovery is these 2 sequel policemen who blast you on sight. So you have to time travel, as you do normally, and then time travel right back. Swimfan's first test run was a 627. I then earned a 446. One of the improvements I used was another Swimfan discovery. Normally, players enter a random time code into the time pod, and the engine stalls out as a joke. Enter another random time code, and that takes you to Space Quest 10. But if you go to one of the non-random time codes in the game, you skip the engine failure. This applies to both Yulon's Flats from Space Quest 1 and the Easter egg screen from Space Quest 3. I held this record for less than 24 hours. Bato earned a 433, and a few hours later, SantaClaus got in on the action and earned a 409. He practiced more, some other discoveries were made that I won't spoil yet, and by February 22nd, Santa had brought his time down to 347. But that same day, SantaClaus found another out of bounds. After the ship lands, head right. You'll want to be near the top because if you take too long, this sequel policeman will politely and forcefully ask you to leave the premises. Press up so you hit the railing, then press left. Left again, up at the back of the ship, and then right. Now, you don't have to mess with the time pod at all, and you can out of bounds your way directly into the invisible laser room. This skips most of the game, because normally the guard doesn't disappear until late in the story. And of course, we also don't have to mess around with melting the lock. And that is why we do not need the slime.
No, we do not. No, do not need the slime at all. The AGI games 1 and 2 also have a lot of boundary breaking stuff, which normally is no benefit whatsoever, because once you go out of bounds from the normal walkable areas in the AGI games, the boundaries now work the opposite way, so you can't go back into where you're supposed to go. But yeah, Sierra games are notoriously broken in this regard. I also love how he just knows the numbers offhand, but that's just...
What SQH means is that there are killer invisible lasers in this room. Wait, I've always wondered, can you actually...
Inconclusive.
Normally, you're supposed to play the game, which means lighting a cigar, puffing smoke, and aligning the lasers correctly. But if you already know what numbers to press, there's no need to reveal the lasers. Just after this screen is the Supercomputer area with maze-like catwalks and killer droids. My run was the first on the leaderboards to avoid the droids with a strat that was previously TAS only. According to C-Square's task description, there are robot drones patrolling the maze, and initially there's one that approaches from the left. Normally, you need to run and hide from this drone, but if you time it just right, you can safely pass the drone during the screen change. This is one of the few parts of this speedrun that I think could only really be done in a TAS. Well, with a little practice, it actually isn't that impossible. And I have to give credit to SantaClaus for both pointing this out and encouraging runners to go for it. But then, Swimfan discovered something that made this strat obsolete.
Oh, boundary breaking again. Nice. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, no, let's go back to that one. This is a fun one. There's no trick to this. There's just no boundary there. And I tested it. That works in the CD version too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that where his walk cursor is there.
Right.
There and that railing, there's just no boundary there.
Cool.
There's just nothing there. Now, you still have to use the floppy version, because after you do that, we see how he goes up diagonal and then over. You have to use the arrow keys to do that. If you try using the mouse, it'll put you back onto a normally walkable area. And in fact, if you do that at this point, you'll get shot by the robot, because it puts you onto the platform with where the robot is.
There you go. And I love this skip. This was in your video as well. The integer or whatever wraps around. So yeah, that's a whole thing. Watch this video about that.
What the Space Quest historian refers to is that the correct code is this, but the variable that stores your input is a 16-bit unsigned integer and can't hold numbers that big. So the value wraps around, or overflows, until you get a value of 26,229. And that's what the code actually compares your input to. This means you can just put that instead of the intended code. Yeah. So that's still there. That's fine. He does something to... Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's gonna be really stupid if he just accidentally flushes the SQ4 icon right now. Just go, damn, so close. Or maybe I should explain really quickly what happens if you flush the Space Quest 4 icon in that screen you just saw. It's probably the cruelest joke in any Sierra game, if not in any game in the entire world. If you flush that icon, the game just bombs back to DOS. No warning. No, do you want to save? Do you want to quit? Nothing. It just... because you flushed the game you're playing.
We also have King's Quest 43. If you flush that, you free up a lot of memory, possibly a joke about the increasing size and complexity of those games. We've got Leisure Suit Larry 4 here as well. For those who don't know, Al Lowe made Larry 5 after Larry 3, skipping over 4 as a joke. In the lore of Space Quest 4, the inhabitants of this world found Leisure Suit Larry 4 and uploaded it into their planet-controlling supercomputer. As a result, a crippling virus spread through the machine, and the planet turned into this. The last two icons are the useful ones. Flushing this icon will disable all the killer robots, and flushing this brain icon will start a formatting sequence for the supercomputer. This is necessary to complete the game, but it does start a timer that ominously counts downward. SantaClaus flushes the supercomputer, but skips the robots to save time, but that's risky. When you're at the computer screen, time runs faster. So this makes the droid's locations hard to predict, and you have to trust that you won't run into them on the way back. In fact, I'd say normally letting the robots live would be a death sentence, if not for what you're about to see.
Yeah, I'm actually interested to see how he's going to do the format countdown, because that is going to be tricky. In you go. Down goes the cursor. See, that cursor is really finicky too, so he's got good control on that one. There we go. More boundary breaking. See, are there just no railings in this place at all?
Yeah.
Are these just holograms? Are you just facing right through them?
So this particular one is kind of a weird... This is not like that it's completely missing like the other one that we just talked about. There's a bit of a setup here. So you'll notice how he positions the walk icon in kind of a really particular spot. And what you have to do is be like lined up on a particular coordinate and then hit up and then hit up again. And then you can bust out of there. So that's a little bit more... That's probably the trickiest one out of all of them.
Interesting. Also, this might be an excellent time to admit that I have no idea how to actually win this fight. I just click as fast as I can. I assume that's how you do it.
Yeah, you can either click on him a whole bunch, or you can like hit up to move towards him over and over again.
There you go. I think you are meant to lose once. Yeah, there you go. He fell on his ass once. I think there is one round that you cannot win. He is supposed to toss your ass. There you go. And he's won.
Yep.
There you go.
Congratulations.
And being the speedrunner that he is, he's still skipping all the text, even though he has already won.
Yeah. That might just be muscle memory from, I don't know, tapping for. But yeah, that is Space Quest 4 in 2 minutes and 43 seconds. And
Sure,
as someone pointed out in our Discord, I think my favorite part of it is that it is a time travel game now with no time travel.
Exactly. It's technically he just sort of time traveled right through the game. Damn, I did not know about all of those skips in the supercomputer. I had no idea. I didn't even know about the first one. I think the only way you can really improve on that is the big time sinks in this run are the music cues that you need to wait for them to finish. And I think if you just disable the audio entirely, there's no audio cue to wait to finish. So that might actually just skip the waiting entirely. It might just say unable to initialize your audio hardware and then bomb. I'm not sure. Never actually tried that.
Unfortunately, if you don't initialize an audio driver, the game won't run. But after I recorded this reaction, Swimfan yet again found something else. First, another out of bounds in the catwalks up here. You have to be in the correct pixel, move up, then move up again. This is the quickest way to get to the last screen of the game. However, because we skipped flushing the supercomputer's brain, these lasers will start shooting at us and kill us on the 7th volley. That is, unless you don't care about the laws of physics. Quickly walk east out of bounds, navigate in between the platforms, and time climbing the ladder so that Roger goes off screen just before the 4th laser blast. Turn the game speed down, then let the game run for several seconds. As the 5th laser blast gets fired, return the game to full speed. If timed correctly, Roger absorbs the orb's laser blast and remains alive, floppy disk in hand. The disk drive is accessible, and you can finish the game as normal. This skips not only flushing the supercomputer, but the entirety of the fight sequence. Swimfan called this trick Orb Absorb. SantaClaus was quick to jump on this and absolutely loved this trick. According to his next speedrun.com submission, the word came to mind after each of the first 6 times you lost a perfectly clean run to unlucky frame rule patterns at the lasers, but only after the 7th time did you snap completely and curse Swimfan for ever finding this skip. I thought this was going to be another painful laser death, but somehow I lucked into hitting the skip in a different way from usual. The more common scenario is that the 7th laser hits just as Roger is reaching the top of the ladder instead of the bottom. That threw me off, and I fumbled the end pretty badly. But fortunately, it was still 2:19 on retime. I'll leave it there. But I've had enough of Swimfan's stupid skip for now, and needing to reboot DOSBox every 5 minutes to reduce lag on this potato computer is not helping. On April 14th, 2024, SantaClaus earned a 219.
Great job, Santa. Bring me a pony next year.
Big thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Play for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox, and use my link in the pinned comment or video description to register. If you're new or haven't played in 6 months, you'll get all this stuff. Join the Patreon to get exclusive videos and behind-the-scenes commentary. Finally, I'd like to thank SantaClaus, Swimfan, and the Space Quest Historian for their help on this video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.